Conversely, I don't think if I were a European or Latin American startup wanting to scale to the US, I don't really think these matters are going to greatly affect the business environment. The laws haven't substantially changed. The accessibility of capital hasn't really changed. So I don't think it's going to have a material effect on startups or scaling companies, at least based on economic policies, access to capital. Now, if reputationally, if someone were to say, I don't want to work with you because you're an American company because of these things taking place, I think that would be extreme at this point. I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
And for a non-US company moving to the US, similarly, I think would have to have a very, the facts on the ground, the fact that the US is the largest market to scale into, I think would overrule any concerns about politics.
I mean, anyway, in Europe, we still, it's still the US that we look up to as an example of what's happening in terms of, ideas, mindset and investment, but specifically the mindset. And, talking about this mindset, I heard in one of your talks, you were saying that, you were coming to talk about, blitzscaling and the framework and so on. And you said, you're not trying to say that whatever works in the US is going to work necessarily going to work somewhere else. It's not the case. So what are the key observations and some of the patterns you've noticed in this regards?
So with regard to what we're doing at Blitzscaling Academy and Blitzscaling Ventures, we've really tried to crystallize the points that are made in the book Blitzscaling into an investment and company building framework. And so we've created a number of tools, a canvas and a scoring grading tool, just like other corporate strategy frameworks that are out there, like the Porter's 5 Forces model or the BCG cash matrix, many of the famous frameworks, from over the decades that people use to think about business problems. We've converted Blitzscaling into a series of tools like that we hope allows us to objectively look at any company, either as an investment opportunity. So looking through Crunchbase or PitchBook data, looking at company after company, we believe we have a objective and repeatable process for evaluating the ability to scale of that business model. And on the Blitzscaling Academy side, we have a series of tools like a business model canvas equivalent, where we can sit with the founders of a company and work through a series of exercise with them to help them uncover the strengths and weaknesses in their business model's ability to scale, and then try to help them identify a number of strategies or tactics that they might be able to put in place to see, does this improve their overall ability to scale? So with that as sort of the backdrop of what we're doing and the way that we apply Blitzscaling, of course, the ability to scale in the US, you said it's the market that everyone looks up to, maybe not for political reasons, but simply for scale reasons. The fact that it's a single large integrated market with 350 million consumers, with a single legal system, a single language, the English language, that allows a company to scale potentially very rapidly. In contrast, whether you're in Africa, Latin America, or Europe, or even Southeast Asia, where there's a similar number of consumers, where there's equally large opportunities and perhaps even higher growth rates, like in the case of Southeast Asia, you have the situation of the fragmented market, right? So it's not necessarily possible to work in the entire region in a single language. So the next step from there that we would look for is say, well, where are some other large markets that exhibit some of these characteristics? And so that's where you would end up with, well, there's Brazil. We're very bullish on Brazil, 210 million people, all speaking Portuguese, potentially the ability to move into, Angola or Portugal. It's a single market. It very much has its own characteristics, and Brazilian startups could quite easily, move into a Spanish language and continue to scale through Latin America. Other markets that are very large that have the ability to blitzscale a company within their borders would be perhaps Indonesia. Similarly, with 200 million people, India, of course, 1.4 million people. Now, in both of those cases, there's the situation of much lower GDP per capita. So the overall market size opportunity is not commensurate to the US on a person per person basis due to the large differences in GDP per capita. And of course, Europe has many markets capable of getting started a blitzscaling company, but not usually finishing the job, which is why, our friends in Estonia, for example, the land of the unicorns, where there's more unicorns per capita, they typically have a pattern of, getting started there, then quickly moving to London and becoming a part of that ecosystem, raising capital there, putting everything in English, turning Estonia into kind of back office shop, and then, proceeding from there to scale through the UK, through Europe, and then to America. So there's definitely a pattern that exists, or that should exist, depending on where you're starting, and where you need to get to. So an American company can scale to great size, and internationalizing is sort of, that extra 20 or 30% that you might get 5 years down the road. Whereas for a company originating in a much smaller market, they need to be thinking about that almost immediately. So I hope that addresses what your question was.
I didn't have a specific, expectation in terms of answer. I just wanted to pick your brain on that one. But you mentioned different markets. I want to ask you, because Dubai is becoming quite prominent somehow, with like even Saudi Arabia is getting super active.